A warning now about canned tuna. The quick and easy protein lots of families find convenient. Problem is, it's known to contain mercury.
The dolphin-safe label on your tuna can is distracting you from something far more dangerous, actually swimming in that meat. I spent 3 months investigating the 7 brands sitting on your grocery store shelf right now, and 5 of them are hiding the same dirty secret. The 2 that aren't? You'd never guess which ones. Canned tuna sits in almost every American pantry. It's cheap, it's easy, and we've been eating it for decades without a second thought. But here's what nobody talks about. That innocent can you just cracked open? It might be slowly poisoning you. Americans buy about 2.5 cans of tuna per household every month. That makes it the second most popular seafood in the country, right behind shrimp. We put it in sandwiches, casseroles, salads. My grandmother used to make tuna melts every Sunday like clockwork. The problem is mercury. And no, I'm not being dramatic. See, mercury doesn't just pass through your body like a bad decision at a buffet. It accumulates. Every can adds a little more. Twice a week for a year. That safe amount becomes not so safe anymore. Now, if you're over 50, pay attention. Mercury damages your nervous system and kidneys. These are systems that already decline naturally with age. You're essentially pouring gasoline on a slow fire. But wait, doesn't the FDA protect us? Well, here's the kicker. The FDA's safe mercury limits were set in 1979. That's 45 years ago. Jimmy Carter was president. Disco was dying, and the science has changed dramatically since then. Newer research shows harm at much lower levels than we thought. Independent lab tests revealed something even more disturbing. Some brands on your grocery shelf contain 3 times more mercury than others. Same aisle, same price range. Wildly different poison levels. Most people grab whatever's on sale. Makes sense, right? Except it could be the difference between a healthy dinner and a neurological time bomb. I investigated 7 major brands to find out which ones are actually safe, and only 2 passed the test. Chicken of the sea sounds wholesome, friendly, like something your grandmother would trust. But here's what Grandma doesn't know. This company sources tuna from over 15 different countries. 15. That's not a supply chain. That's a game of international telephone where quality control goes to die. When Consumer Reports ran independent lab tests, their chunk-light tuna showed mercury levels creeping dangerously close to the FDA's action limit. We're talking the line where regulators start getting nervous. And that 2019 recall? Over 100,000 cases pulled from shelves because of potential contamination during manufacturing. 100,000. That's not a hiccup. That's a systemic problem wearing a friendly dolphin logo. Speaking of dolphins, let's talk about how they actually catch this tuna. Purse-seine fishing. Sounds technical, but it basically means they drop massive nets that scoop up everything. Dolphins, sea turtles, whatever's swimming by. Oops. Now, here's where it gets really uncomfortable. Thai Union bought Chicken of the Sea back in 2014. This company has been repeatedly cited for labor violations on their fishing vessels. We're not talking about paperwork issues. We're talking about conditions that made international human rights organizations sit up and take notice. The price tag makes sense now, doesn't it? When a can costs $1.29, that money has to come from somewhere. Or more accurately, it has to not go somewhere. Testing protocols, quality sourcing, basic oversight. You get what you pay for. Sometimes what you pay for is a mystery fish from an unknown ocean, processed under questionable conditions by a company with a rap sheet longer than my grocery list. But Chicken of the Sea isn't even the biggest player here. That title belongs to a brand with an even darker history. Now, let's talk about the big dog. StarKist. This brand controls about 40% of the entire U.S. canned tuna market. Flip open any random American pantry, and boom, there's that iconic logo staring back at you. But here's where things get spicy. In 2018, StarKist pleaded guilty to federal price-fixing charges. The penalty? $100 million. That's not a typo. They literally conspired with competitors to cheat American consumers at the checkout line. For years, and most people still have no clue this happened. You'd think a company paying 9-figure fines might clean up their act, right? Well, independent lab testing tells a different story. StarKist's albacore tuna averages around 0.35 parts per million of mercury. Now that sounds technical, but here's what it means practically. If you're eating this stuff weekly, you're creeping into concerning territory, especially if you're over 60. Then there's the FDA warning letters. Multiple citations for sanitation violations at their processing facilities. We're not talking about minor paperwork issues here, but the thing that really bugs me, their chunk-light tuna. Sounds simple enough, except it's basically a mystery grab bag. Random tuna species get tossed together, and you genuinely have no idea what ended up in your can. It's like a surprise party, except nobody wanted this surprise. Oh, and my personal favorite detail. StarKist heavily markets to seniors with heart health claims. Omega-3s, good for your ticker. Meanwhile, they conveniently forget to mention the mercury risks that hit older adults hardest. It's like selling someone a gym membership while hiding the fact the building has no roof. Speaking of companies with skeletons in their closet, wait until you hear what bankruptcy court revealed about Bumble Bee. Now, here's where things get really ugly. Bumble Bee filed for bankruptcy in 2019, and when companies go bankrupt, court documents become public. What came out? Years of cost-cutting that would make your stomach turn. But the worst part happened 7 years earlier. In 2012, a worker named Jose Melena was cooked alive inside a 35-foot industrial oven at their California plant. He'd gone in to do maintenance. Nobody checked. They turned it on. 2 hours at 270 degrees. That's not a workplace accident. That's criminal negligence. And it revealed safety standards that should terrify anyone eating their products. Oh, and remember that price-fixing scandal I mentioned with StarKist? Bumble Bee was in on it too. $6 million in criminal fines for conspiring to cheat American consumers alongside their supposed competitors. 3 companies. Same crime. Same years. These brands weren't competing. They were collaborating against you. Gets worse. Bumble Bee's supply chain includes tuna from Thailand. Sounds exotic, right? Well, Thai fishing vessels have been repeatedly linked to human trafficking. Actual modern slavery. Workers trapped on boats for years without pay. And some of that catch ends up in cans with a friendly bee on the label. Here's what kills me. Despite bankruptcy, despite the death, despite the price-fixing conviction, Bumble Bee products are still on shelves. New ownership bought the brand but kept largely the same sourcing practices. The bankruptcy revealed everything wrong with the industry. It just didn't change anything. Their solid white albacore tests higher in mercury than cheaper chunk light. Because albacore are bigger predatory fish living longer lives, accumulating more toxins. So premium pricing, premium mercury. Fantastic deal. Next brand surprised me most, though. Genova. Sounds Italian, right? Beautiful Mediterranean vibes. Premium quality. Worth the extra $2. Here's the joke. Your fancy Italian tuna probably swam in Indonesian waters. That's right. Genova markets itself as premium imported tuna with gorgeous Italian packaging. But flip that can around. The fish comes from the same Southeast Asian waters as the budget brands. The only thing Italian about it is the font on the label. And it gets better. That olive oil they pack it in? Often a blend. Not the pure extra virgin their marketing implies. You're paying for a vibe, not a product. Now, here's where I nearly spit out my coffee when researching this. Genova is owned by Thai Union, the same company that owns Chicken of the Sea. Remember them from earlier? The budget brand with labor violations and supply chain issues? Same parent company? Same suppliers? Different packaging? You're essentially buying Chicken of the Sea in a tuxedo, at double the price. But wait, at least the premium price means better mercury testing, right? Wrong. Consumer testing found Genova's mercury levels virtually identical to budget brands. We're talking comparable numbers to stuff costing half as much. The yellowfin tuna they use actually contains more mercury than skipjack because yellowfin live longer. More years swimming means more years accumulating toxins. Makes sense when you think about it. So what are you actually paying $4 to $5 for? A pretty label, some marketing about Italian heritage, maybe slightly better olive oil. Maybe. This is what frustrates me most. Companies know we'll pay more for perceived quality without delivering actual quality. But not every premium brand is smoke and mirrors. One actually backs up its claims with something revolutionary. Now here's where things get interesting. Whole Foods shoppers, I'm talking to you. You see that green label, the clean packaging, the store that bans artificial colors and high-fructose corn syrup. Surely their tuna is better, right? Wrong. Let's start with the biggest misconception. That 365 store brand tuna? It carries 0 organic certification. None. And here's the thing. It can't. Wild-caught fish cannot legally be labeled organic in the United States. So that healthy halo you're imagining? Pure marketing magic. But it gets worse. Whole Foods sources their tuna from the exact same global suppliers as conventional brands. Same boats, same oceans, same fish. They just shuffle different paperwork. I actually bought their albacore last month thinking I was making the smart choice. Paid $3.50 for the privilege of feeling superior in the checkout line. Then I found the independent testing results. Their albacore, 0.34 parts per million mercury. That's virtually identical to StarKist, basically the same as Bumble Bee. You're paying a Whole Foods premium for Walmart-level mercury. And that sustainably caught claim on the label? That refers only to fishing methods. It says absolutely nothing about mercury content, nothing about processing plant conditions, nothing about the stuff that actually affects your health. Here's the kicker that really got me. When researchers traced Whole Foods' tuna supply chain, guess where it led? Back to many of the same Thai processors flagged for labor violations and safety concerns. Same fish, same problems. Fancier grocery store. So at this point, you're probably thinking every tuna brand is terrible, that there's no safe option. Actually, there are two. And the first one does something no other brand bothers with. Here's where things finally get interesting. Wild Planet does something no major brand bothers with. They test every single batch of tuna for mercury. Not random samples, not occasional spot checks. Every single batch. And get this, they post the results publicly on their website with lot numbers. You can actually look up your specific can. It's like they're playing with their cards face up, while everyone else hides their hands under the table. Their skipjack tuna averages 0.08 parts per million mercury. That's roughly 1/4 of what major brands contain. Same ocean, same fish species, completely different results. How do they pull this off? They use pole and line fishing exclusively, one fish at a time. Old school methods your grandfather would recognize. No giant nets scooping up everything in sight. No dolphins, no sea turtles, just tuna. The company also sources smaller, younger skipjack. Makes sense, right? A fish that's lived 3 years hasn't accumulated decades' worth of ocean toxins. It's basic math that bigger brands ignore, because younger fish weigh less, and profits matter more than your health. But here's what surprised me most. Wild Planet packs tuna in its own natural juices instead of water or added oil. This preserves significantly more omega-3 fatty acids. You're actually getting the heart-healthy benefits that made you buy tuna in the first place. At $4 to $5 per can, you pay the same as fancy Genova. Except with Wild Planet, you get verified testing, ethical sourcing, and genuinely lower mercury content. Not just marketing fluff. Now you might be thinking Wild Planet sounds pretty good. And it is. But there's one brand that takes testing even further. Almost obsessively so. Now here's where things get serious. Safe Catch doesn't just test batches. They test every single fish. Every single one. I had to read that twice myself. Most companies grab a random sample from a massive pile of tuna and call it good. Safe Catch literally checks each fish before it goes into a can. That's like a teacher grading every homework assignment instead of just glancing at the top paper. Their mercury limit sits at 0.1 parts per million. The FDA allows 1.0 parts per million. Quick math? Safe Catch holds themselves to a standard 10 times stricter than what the government requires. And here's the backstory that explains everything. The founder started this company after his wife developed mercury poisoning from canned tuna while pregnant. That's not a marketing gimmick. That's a man who watched his family suffer and decided nobody else should. Consumer Reports did extensive testing across dozens of brands. Their verdict? Safe Catch Elite, ranked as the lowest mercury canned tuna you can buy in America. Period. But wait, there's more. Most tuna gets cooked twice. Once before canning, once after. Safe Catch cooks it only once, inside the sealed can. Sounds like a small detail, right? Wrong. This single change preserves 3 times more omega-3 fatty acids. Now the price question. Safe Catch runs about $1 more per can than Wild Planet. Some folks balk at that. But think about what you're actually buying. Individual fish testing that literally no other brand provides. Not batch testing, not random sampling. Every fish gets checked before it reaches your sandwich. So which brand actually earned my trust? The answer might surprise you.